There's a boy in the girls' bathroom, beginning on chapter 21. Hello, Bradley, said Carla. It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate you coming to see me. She held out her hand. I punched myself in the eye, he said as he walked past her. He didn't want her thinking someone else gave it to him. I'm the only one who can beat me up. Did it hurt? She asked. No, he said, sitting at the round table. Nobody can hurt me, not even me. She sat across from him. She was wearing a light blue shirt with yellow mice running all over it. The shirt was the same color as her eyes. The mice were the same color as her hair. I wanted to hit somebody, he explained as he stared at her shirt. But if I hit another kid, I would have gotten in trouble, so I hit myself. Why'd you want to hit somebody? Because I hate him. Who? Everybody. Is that why you hit yourself? Do you hate yourself? He didn't answer. He thought it was another one of her trick questions. Do you like yourself? She asked. He didn't trust that question either. Maybe the reason you say you don't like anybody else is because you really don't like yourself. I like myself, he said. You're the one I don't like. Tell me some things about yourself that you like. He glared at her. I like you, she said. I think you have lots of good qualities, but I want you to tell me things you like about yourself. I can't talk anymore, he said. Why not? I'm sick. The doctor said I can't talk. The more I talk, the sicker I get. That sounds serious. It is. I've probably said too much already, and it's your fault. I'll probably throw up. Carla nodded. Don't say another word, she said quietly. We'll just sit together in silence. Sometimes people can learn a lot about each other just by sitting together in silence. She locked her mouth shut, then opened it to swallow the key. You're weird, said Bradley. A lot of people tell me that, she admitted, then put her finger to her lips. They sat together in silence. Bradley shifted in his chair. His eyes darted restlessly around the room. He put his hands behind his head and leaned back, then brought his hands out in front of him and folded them. Then he unfolded them. He didn't like sitting together in silence. He thought she was probably learning too much about him. I can probably talk a little bit, he said. No, I don't want you to get sick, said Carla. I like you too much. The doctor says I'm supposed to talk a little, just not a lot. All right, shall we talk about school? No, the doctor says if I talk about school, I'll die. Carla frowned. That's a problem, she said. See, as part of my job, I'm supposed to help you do better in school. But how can I help if we can't even talk about it? Bradley put his fingers to his chin and thought it over. I know, he said. Just tell everybody that you tried to help me, but I wouldn't let you. Tell them that I was too mean and nasty. That's it. Tell them I said I'd spit on you. Oh, no, I couldn't say that about you, said Carla. You're too nice. They'll believe you, he assured her. It doesn't matter whether they believe me or not, said Carla. I'd know that it's a lie. So? So when you tell a lie, the only person you're lying to is yourself. He didn't see anything wrong with that. If you're only lying to yourself, and you know it's a lie, then it doesn't matter. I just wish I knew why a smart kid like you keeps failing. It's because Mrs. Ebel doesn't like me, said Bradley. Shh, said Carla. Don't talk about it. Well, I can probably talk about school a little bit without dying, he said. Okay, Carla said hesitantly, but as soon as you feel even a little bit like dying, let me know and we'll stop. They talked about school for about 15 minutes before Bradley felt like dying. Carla pointed out that the same questions that were on the tests were also on his homework assignments. She suggested that if he did his homework, the test might be easy for him. The tests are easy, he told her. I could get 100 if I wanted. I'm the oldest kid in the class. I answer all the questions wrong on purpose. You want to know what I think? Asked Carla. I think you would like to get good grades. I think that the only reason you say you want to fail is because you're afraid to try. You're afraid that even if you try, you'll still fail. I'm not afraid of anything, said Bradley. I think you're afraid of yourself, said Carla, but you shouldn't be. I have lots of confidence in you. Bradley, I know you'd do so well. If only you'd try. I can help you. We can help each other. We can try together. It was then that he told her he couldn't talk about school anymore or else he would die. She thanked him for talking about it as much as he had. You were very brave, she said. She suggested that for their next meeting he make a list of topics to discuss so that they wouldn't have to risk talking about school again. Is that homework? He asked. No, she assured him. You don't even have to put your name at the top. Good, said Bradley. He was glad it wasn't homework. It was time to return to class. Thank you for sharing so much with me today, Carla said to him. I enjoyed your visit very much. She held out her hand. He stuck his hands in his pockets and walked out of her office. Chapter 22. All week, Bradley worked on his list of topics to discuss with Carla. It's not homework, he kept telling himself. In fact, it's the opposite of homework because if I think of some good topics, then we won't have to talk about homework. He didn't scribble during class. He listened closely to what Mrs. Ebel and the other kids said in order to get ideas for his list. He took it with him wherever he went. At recess, he kept his eyes and ears open, constantly on the lookout for a new topic. The other kids were meaner to him than they'd ever been before. They were no longer afraid of him. They called him names, and when he didn't do anything about it, they called him more names. A fourth-grade boy who wanted to show off to his friends ran up to him and said, "You're not even human. You're a monster. You're a monster from outer space." The boy ran away, but Bradley didn't chase him. He added 3 new topics to his list: humans, monsters, and outer space. Monday was Halloween. Most of the kids brought costumes, but they were allowed to put on at lunch. Brian, one of Jeff's friends, didn't bring a costume, so he borrowed a black magic marker from Mrs. Ebel and colored a circle around one eye. When he came back from lunch, he told everyone he was a Bradley Chalkers. While everyone laughed, Bradley busily worked on his list. It covered both sides of 3 sheets of paper. Number 1, trees that lose their leaves. Number 2, gold stars. Number 3, chalk. Number 4, tape. Number 5, are chickens really afraid? Number 6, why people laugh. Number 7, what does it feel like to be shot in the leg? Number 8, pencils. Number 9, pencil sharpeners. Number 10, accidents. Number 11, coffee. Number 12, military school. Number 13, canes. Number 14, basketball. Number 15, friends. Number 16, enemies. Number 17, hopscotch. Number 18, dodgeball. Number 19, 4 square. Number 20, 1 potato. Number 21, 2 potato. Number 22, 3 potato. Number 23, 4. Number 24, 5 potato. Number 26, 6 potato. Number 27, 7 potato. Number 28, more. Number 28. Number 27, more. Number 28, less. I'm just going to stop saying the numbers. I'll just say the words, okay? Or the concepts. Nothing at all. What's it like to be in jail? Good boys, bad boys, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Have you ever been to the White House? Who shot my father? Why did he get away? Peanut butter and jelly, gold stars, black eyes, fighting, girls with big mouths. What's it like inside a girl's bathroom? Saying hello, reflexes, hate. When will I be able to grow a beard? Things that smell bad. Things you like about yourself. Things you don't like about yourself. Things nobody likes about yourself. Things you don't like about anybody else. Gold stars. Does my head look like a chili bowl? Closets. Hiding spaces. Dreaming. Bad dreams. I wish I could fly. Kids with glasses. Glasses you drink from. Why people like some people and hate other people. Breaking things. I wish I was invisible. Crybabies. What happens to you when you grow old? Humans, monsters, outer space. Why is Halloween a holiday? Pirates, princesses, ghosts. What happens when you die? What if you were never born? Can someone else be you? Can you be someone else? If I was someone else, I wouldn't make fun of me. Magic and markers. And there are 81 things total on his list. He didn't go trick-or-treating that evening, though Ronnie and Bartholomew did. The other animals gave them lots of candy. I'm making a list of topics to talk about with my counselor, he told them. Do you have any ideas? How about rabbits, suggested Ronnie. That's a good one, said Bradley. He added rabbits to his list. Bears, said Bartholomew. That's good too. Claudia barged into his room. Bradley quickly shoved his list under a pillow on his bed. How about what Dad's going to do to you when he finds out you're flunking, she asked. That's a good topic. What are you talking about, asked Bradley. The list. What list? Oh, I don't know, said Claudia. She slowly wandered toward the bed, then lunged for the pillow. Bradley dived for it, too, but Claudia beat him to it. She held the list above her head and read it. As she looked at each new page, she cracked up laughing. What's so funny, he demanded. Your list. What's wrong with it? This isn't the kind of stuff you talk about with a counselor. How do you know? Chalk? Asked Claudia. What can you say about chalk? A lot, he insisted. Claudia laughed. 1 potato, 2 potato. Your counselor's going to be mad when she sees this. Give it to me. Yes, she answered as if he had asked a question. Yes, what? Yes, your head looks like a chili bowl, she laughed. Shut up. Who shot my father? Read Claudia. How's she going to know that? Bradley shrugged. Claudia gave him back the list. You wrote gold stars 3 times, she said, shaking her head. Bradley grabbed it from her hand and looked at what he'd written. That's the stupidest list I've ever seen, said Claudia. Your counselor's not going to want to talk about anything on that list. You don't know her, he replied. She'll talk about anything I want to talk about. She listens to me. She likes me. No, she doesn't, scoffed Claudia. That's just her job. She walked out of his room, laughing. Bradley watched her go. Then he added 2 new topics to his list, sisters and jobs. Tears filled his eyes as he tried to think of another topic. He crossed off 2 of the gold stars, then crumpled the list into a ball and threw it in his trash basket. Number 23. Look out! Here comes the monster, screamed a chubby 4th grade boy. It's the monster from outer space. Ah, it's so ugly, yelled his skinny friend. Don't let it touch you, warned a girl with pink glasses, or you'll turn into a monster too. Bradley ran at them. They scattered and regrouped like pigeons. He sat down to eat his lunch. It sure is a stupid monster, shouted a 3rd grader. After lunch, Bradley sat at his desk, last seat, last row. He didn't look at Jeff. He didn't look the other way either, at the chart full of gold stars. And he didn't look straight ahead, at Mrs. Ebel. He didn't look anywhere. It was time to see Carla again. He took the hall pass for Mrs. Ebel and walked out of the classroom. He hated Carla. He didn't want to make the same mistake with her that he had made with Jeff. He realized Claudia was right. Carla didn't like him. That was just her job. She was waiting for him outside her door. Hello, Bradley, she said as she held out her hand. It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate you coming to see me. He walked past her and sat down at the round table. She sat across from him. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt with 2 triangles on it, one red and one blue. Did you make a list of topics to discuss? She asked. No, you're the teacher. So? So you're the one who has to say what we talk about, not me. That's your job. Well, let me think, said Carla. Are you sure you can't think of anything? He shook his head. I'm surprised. I thought you would have come up with a lot of interesting topics. Well, in that case, we'll have to talk about school. Shall we start with homework? Monsters from outer space, he replied. Monsters from outer space, he repeated. You said I could pick the topic. I want to talk about monsters from outer space. What a wonderful topic, said Carla. The only way to kill them is with a ray gun, said Bradley. Regular guns or even hand grenades and atomic bombs won't kill them. You need a ray gun. He stood up and pretended to shoot a ray gun, making a noise that sounded like a cross between a machine gun and a horse. Carla put her hands up to protect herself. Don't shoot me, she said. You're a monster from outer space, he told her. No, I'm not. I'm a counselor. He stopped firing. Do you believe in monsters from outer space? She shook her head. No, but I do believe that there are other types of creatures living in outer space. I just don't believe in monsters. I believe that Earth is just one small planet in a gigantic universe. I think there are billions of other planets with trillions of other kinds of creatures living on them. Some are real stupid, and others smarter than you or me. Some are bigger than dinosaurs, others smaller than ants. But out of all those creatures, I don't think there is even one monster. Not even one? No, said Carla. I think everyone has good inside him. Everyone can feel happiness and sadness and loneliness. But sometimes people think someone's a monster. But that's only because they can't see the good that's there inside him. And then a terrible thing happens. They kill him? No, even worse. They call him a monster, and other people start calling him a monster. And everyone treats him like a monster, and then after a while, he starts believing it himself. He thinks he's a monster too, so he acts like one. But he still isn't a monster. He still has lots of good buried deep inside him. But what if he's real ugly, asked Bradley. What if he has green skin and only one eye in the middle of his face, and 3 arms and 2 hands on each arm and 8 fingers on each hand? Carla laughed. You and I might think that's ugly, she said, but that's just because it's different from what we're used to seeing. On that planet, that might be considered beautiful. You might have just described a handsome movie star. Bradley laughed. On that planet, they probably would think I was ugly because I don't have green skin and I have 2 eyes. Bradley shook his head. No, they might think I was ugly, but not you. Why, Bradley, Carla said with astonishment, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Thank you. He blushed. He hadn't meant it the way it came out. I don't want to talk about monsters anymore, he mumbled. Okay, said Carla. I think we had a very good conversation, don't you? You picked an excellent topic. For the rest of the session, he colored. He took a green crayon out of Carla's large box of crayons and tried to draw the creature from outer space that he had described. He was able to draw the 3 arms and 6 hands, but he had trouble fitting 8 fingers onto each hand. He looked up. Carla? Yes, Bradley? Can you see inside monsters? He asked. Can you see the good? That's all I see. He returned to his picture. He drew a black eye in the middle of the creature's face. He drew a red heart inside the creature's chest to show all the good that was there. Well, how does a monster stop being a monster? He asked. I mean, if everyone sees only a monster and they keep treating him like a monster, how does he stop being a monster? It isn't easy, said Carla. I think first he has to realize for himself that he isn't a monster. That, I think, is the first step. Until he knows he isn't a monster, how is anybody else supposed to know? Bradley finished coloring and showed his picture to Carla. He's a movie star on his planet, he said. Everyone loves him. He's very handsome, said Carla. You want it? Asked Bradley. I mean, I don't want it anyway, so you can have it. I'd love it, said Carla. Thank you. In fact, I'm going to hang it on the wall right now. Bradley watched her tack it up. He almost told her she wasn't allowed to put holes in the wall, but he changed his mind. It was time for him to go back to class. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, said Carla. I hope you have another wonderful topic for us to discuss. He started to go, then stopped and turned around. Yes? She asked. He put his hands on his hips and stared at her. Did you forget something? He stood and waited. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She held out her hand and said, I enjoyed your visit very much. Thank you for sharing so much with me. He stretched his mouth into a half smile, half frown, then hurried out of her office. I screwed up. I think that it doesn't say, but I think that did you forget something was her saying it, not him. But like I said, I can't tell. It doesn't show. Chapter 24. Here he comes, said Laurie. Don't be a chicken. Colleen bit her bottom lip. It was after school. The 3 girls stood across the street and watched Jeff. Maybe she should wait until tomorrow, said Colleen. Hey, Jeff, Laurie shouted. No, Colleen whispered. Jeff turned. Laurie and Melinda walked toward him. Colleen lagged behind. Hello, Jeff, said Laurie. Hi, Jeff, said Melinda. Hello, hi, answered Jeff. Laurie laughed. Come on, Colleen, said Melinda. Ask him. Colleen blushed and looked away. Colleen has something she wants to ask you, said Laurie. Well, see, okay, well, stammered Colleen. Quit bothering me, Jeff said very quietly. We're not bothering you, said Laurie. Colleen just wants to ask you. Melinda stopped her. Let Colleen ask him, she said. Well, see, said Colleen. Okay. She took a breath. It's my birthday. I don't want her asking me anything, Jeff snapped. Colleen turned bright red. And quit saying hello to me, too. We can say hello if we want, said Melinda. It's a free country. I don't want you saying it to me, said Jeff. Don't worry, Colleen exploded. I won't. I will, said Laurie. Hello, 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 hello. Shut up, said Jeff. He slammed his book down on the sidewalk. Hello, Jeff, said Laurie. Hello, Jeff, she laughed at her mistake. Oh, pfft. Jello, Jeff, she laughed at her mistake. Jello, Jeff, hello, Jello, she laughed hysterically. And quit laughing, Jeff shouted. She can laugh, said Colleen. You can't tell her she can't laugh. Hello, 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 said Laurie as fast as she could. Shut up, screamed Jeff. You shut up, said Melinda. I'm not afraid of you, Melinda, said Jeff. I'm not afraid of you either, said Melinda. Jeff raised his fist in the air. Melinda did the same. Laurie shrieked with anticipation. Okay, hit me, said Jeff. You hit me first, said Melinda. No, you hit me first, said Jeff. Somebody hit somebody, shouted Laurie. Jeff tapped Melinda's shoulder with his fist. She slugged him in the stomach. As he bent over, she hit him in the nose. Jeff flailed his arms as he tried to defend himself, but Melinda kept punching him in the neck, in the stomach, then in the eye. Jeff fell to the ground. Melinda jumped on top of him, knees first. She sat on his chest and held his arms flat against the ground. Laurie knelt behind them and slapped the ground as she counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Melinda stood up. Laurie held Melinda's arm high in the air. Holding her nose with her other hand, she bellowed, The winner and still champion of the world, Marvelous Melinda. Colleen clapped her hands. Chapter 25. I'm going to be good, thought Bradley, and then, when everybody sees how good I am, they'll know I'm not a monster. And Mrs. Ebel will give you a gold star, said Ronnie. Bradley was so excited. He didn't realize he was putting on two different colored socks, a blue one and a green one. He tied his shoelaces, then went into the bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. His black eye was almost gone. It had faded into a light brownish yellow color. He hurried out to breakfast. His mother made oatmeal for him. I hate hot cereal, he complained. You'll eat what you're served, said his father. This isn't a restaurant. He frowned, not because he had to eat oatmeal, but because he realized he never should have said he hated it. That was something the bad Bradley would say. The good Bradley liked hot, lumpy cereal. He took a big spoonful, brought it to his mouth, and swallowed the glop. Good, he said. But as he withdrew the spoon from his mouth, his elbow bumped his glass of orange juice. Claudia screamed and jumped up. Oh, Bradley, said his mother. His father glared at him. It was an accident. He started to say it was an accident, but then remembered Carla didn't believe in accidents. That puzzled him. He wondered why he would want to spill his orange juice on purpose. He liked orange juice. It was the oatmeal he should have spilled. Are you just going to sit there, or are you going to help your mother clean it up? Asked his father. He picked up his napkin to help, but his mother told him to stay out of her way. You'll only make a bigger mess, she said. Silently, he finished eating. As he headed back to his room, Claudia burst out laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. Look at your socks, she laughed. He looked down at his feet, then back at his sister, and the laughing hyena. Thank you, Claudia, he said. I appreciate you sharing that with me. She stopped laughing and stared at him. He walked into his room, sat on the edge of his bed, and took off his sneakers. Wow, said Bartholomew, you are so good. I would have punched her face in if I was you. He's going to get a gold star today, said Ronnie. Bradley changed his socks, but once again was so excited thinking about the gold star that he didn't pay attention to what he was doing. He took the green sock off his right foot. He took the blue sock off his left foot. He put the green sock on his left foot and the blue sock on his right foot. Then he put his shoes on and left for school, determined to be good. He walked into class and took his seat, last row. He sat up straight with his hands folded on top of his desk. He tried to hold back his excitement as he glanced at the chart on the wall next to him. Jeff came in and sat down, last seat, second to last row. Bradley saw him out of the corner of his eye, then turned to get a better look. Jeff had a black eye. What are you staring at, Chalkers? Jeff snarled. Hey, you two look like twins, exclaimed Sean, the girl who sat in front of Jeff. Turn your ugly face around, Jeff snapped. Oh, shut up, Bradley, said Sean, turning around. Bradley looked at the back of Sean's head. She still thinks I'm a monster, he realized. But once I get my gold star, then she'll know I'm good. For the rest of the morning, he sat at attention with his eyes fixed on Mrs. Ebel. He kept wondering if she had noticed how good he was yet. As he walked outside for recess, he was almost certain there'd be a gold star next to his name when he returned. Curtis and Doug, two of Jeff's friends, came out of Mrs. Sharp's class. What's the big idea? Asked Doug. Hitting Jeff when he's not looking, said Curtis. Huh? Said Bradley. Doug pushed him. He stumbled backwards into Jeff, who pushed him back the other way. Bradley looked around. He was surrounded. Jeff's our friend, said Robbie. Yeah, said Brian. You hit me when I wasn't looking, said Jeff, and my hands were full of groceries. I didn't want to break the eggs. Chicken chalkers, said Dan. There was a space between Andy and Doug. Bradley dashed through it and ran across the playground. Jeff and his friends chased after him. Bradley looked at them and smashed into a girl standing on one foot. The girl fell onto the hard hopscotch ground and wailed. I'm telling Bradley, said one of her friends. I'm sorry, Bradley said helplessly, then continued running. He ran up the concrete steps and entered the school building through the auditorium. From there, he walked quickly to the library. What do you want, Bradley? Asked Mrs. Wilcott, the librarian. Nothing, he muttered as he sat down at one of the tables. He leaned his head against his hands, propped up by his elbows. What if Carla's wrong, he worried. What if I really am a monster? I don't want any trouble from you, Bradley, said Mrs. Wilcott. Chapter 26. We'll get you at lunch, Chalkers, Robbie whispered as Bradley returned to class. You're late, said Mrs. Ebel. He sat at his desk, last seat, last row, and looked at the chart on the wall next to him. Of course there was no gold star next to his name. He had already done 3 things wrong. First, he had knocked over a girl and made her cry. Second, he was late getting back to class. And third, and worst of all, his name was Bradley Chalkers. As long as his name was Bradley Chalkers, he'd never get a gold star. They don't give gold stars to monsters. They beat up monsters. He looked around at Jeff, Robbie, Russell, and Brian. He had to concentrate very hard to keep from crying. The worst part wasn't getting beat up. The worst part was that he knew everyone would love it so much. He imagined the whole school, the boys, the girls, and even the teachers, standing by and cheering as Jeff's gang took turns hitting and kicking him. When the bell rang for lunch, he slowly took his paper sack out of his desk. "We'll be waiting for you outside," Jeff said to him. Bradley watched him walk out the door. He walked slowly towards the front of the room, then suddenly dashed out the door and into the hall. "Bradley, come back here," Mrs. Ebel yelled. He kept running. So what if he got in trouble? What difference did it make? He pulled on the door to the library. It wouldn't budge. The library was closed during lunch. He tried to think of somewhere else he'd be safe. "There he is," said Doug, stepping out of the auditorium. Bradley turned and ran back the way he had come. He rounded a corner, then stopped and made a quick and desperate decision. He opened the door to the girls' bathroom, closed his eyes, and stepped inside. He opened his eyes. Luckily, the room was empty. He held his breath and listened. Nothing could be worse than being beaten up inside a girl's bathroom. They'd probably stick my head in a girl's toilet, he thought. He waited. He didn't hear anything. He looked around. The floor and the bottom half of the walls were covered with green tile. There were 2 white sinks and a paper towel dispenser. There were 3 toilets and 3 separate stalls. Each stall had a door. It looked very much like the boys' bathroom. Girls' toilets appeared to be the same as boy toilets. He was disappointed. He couldn't risk going back out into the hall. He leaned against one of the stalls, reached into his brown paper sack, and took out his roast beef sandwich. Someone was opening the door. He quickly put the sandwich back in the bag and hopped into a stall, closing the door behind him. He stood on the toilet so his feet couldn't be seen. He listened. He heard a person walk across the tiled floor and then enter the stall next to him. He covered his mouth with his hand as he heard some familiar but very private sounds. At last the toilet flushed, and he heard the person zip her pants and walk across to the sink. He heard the sound of running water and then a paper towel pulled down from the dispenser. Finally, the bathroom door opened and shut. He exhaled, hopped off the toilet, stepped out of the stall, and froze. 2 girls were staring at him. One was the girl who had used the toilet next to him. The other had just entered. He wondered which was which. Then he heard the loudest scream he'd ever heard in his whole life. That answered his question. He darted past them, opened the door, and flew into the hall. He rounded a corner, came to a door, and pounded wildly on it until it opened. "Bradley?" said Carla. "Hello, Carla." He held out his hand. "It's a pleasure to see you today." Chapter 27. She shook his hand. He walked inside, shut the door behind him, and sat down around the table. "You won't believe it," he said as he looked at his picture of the green monster hanging on the wall. "You just won't believe it." "I'm sure I won't," Carla agreed. She sat across from him. She was wearing a sleeveless black and white checkered shirt. "Okay, I'll tell you," said Bradley. "I was hoping you would." "Do you know where I was before I was here?" "No." He slammed his fist on the table. "The girls' bathroom." He told her all about it, how the girl had used the toilet next to him and how he thought she had left, but really another girl had entered. "At first I didn't know which girl was which, but then one of them screamed, so she must have been the one." "Who was she?" asked Carla. "Did you know her?" "Yes, but I don't think I should tell you her name. She probably doesn't want anybody else to know." "That's very considerate of you, Bradley." He shrugged. "Shall we have lunch?" asked Carla. "Okay." He took out his roast beef sandwich. Carla set her lunch on the table. She had a carton of yogurt and a plate of sliced tomatoes and cucumbers. "That looks good," said Bradley. "You want to trade?" She asked that, not him. "Okay." They traded lunches. Bradley ate a slice of cucumber. He thought it was delicious. "So what were you doing inside the girls' bathroom?" asked Carla. She took a big bite out of Bradley's roast beef sandwich. "Jeff and his friends were chasing me," he explained. "Jeff got a black eye, just like me. They all think I gave it to him." "Did you?" He could have lied. He could have said, sure, he beat up Jeff with one hand tied behind his back. He knew Carla always believed whatever he said. "No, I can't even beat up a girl," he said. "Melinda Birch beat me up. Do you know her?" "No." "You'd like her. She's nice." Carla smiled. Bradley ate a slice of tomato, followed by a spoonful of yogurt. "I hid in the library at recess," he said. "They couldn't beat me up in the library, even if they found me. You can't even talk in the library." "Yes, I know. Isn't it amazing?" "What's that?" The library, all those books, and they're all different, aren't they? Carla nodded as she drank Bradley's juice through a straw. I kept thinking about that the whole time I was there, he said. They're all different, but they all use practically the same words. They just put them in a different order. Did you? Just 26 letters, he told her. All they do is move those letters around, and then they say so many different things. Did you? You'd think after a while they'd run out of ways to move them around, said Bradley. Did you check out a book? No, Mrs. Wilcott won't let me. I used to, a long time ago, before I met you. I used to check out books and not return them. I used to scribble in them and rip them up, so she won't let me check any books out anymore. The whole time I was there, she kept watching me, saying, I don't want any trouble from you, Bradley. He ate another slice of cucumber. I just wanted to look at a book. I wasn't going to ruin it. I know, said Carla, and after a while, Mrs. Wilcott will know that too. I'm trying to be good, said Bradley, but nobody will give me a chance. They will. It just takes time. Do you ever play checkers on your shirt? He asked. Carla nearly spit out her juice. She laughed and shook her head. I like your shirts, he said. I like your socks, said Carla. Bradley looked at his mismatched socks. I thought I changed them, he said, befuddled. I hate socks that match, said Carla. See? She stuck out her legs. She was wearing white pants. She had on one white sock and one black sock. Bradley smiled. It wasn't his usual twisted smile, but one that was genuine. It was one that, up until now, had been seen only by Ronnie and Bartholomew. I know something good you can do, said Carla, and Mrs. Ebel will notice it too. What? Homework. The smile dropped off his face. No, I can't, he said. Sure you can, said Carla. I can't, his eyes filled with tears. You can do anything you want to do, Bradley Chalkers. I have a lot of confidence in you. He shook his head. But I can't, his voice cracked. Don't say I can't. As long as you say you can't do something, then of course you won't do it. Say I can. Say I can, and you can do anything. I can't, he was crying. Bradley, it's not that difficult. You're making a big deal out of nothing. If you want, I will help you. I can't, he sobbed. Why can't you? She demanded. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve and sniffled. He looked Carla straight in the eye and said, I don't know what page we're on. Oh, Bradley, Carla whispered. Her eyes glistened. She stood up, walked around the table, and kissed him on the cheek.